The unexpected favor, Sophie Carter wiped flour from her hands as the last customer left the cafe. The bell above the door jingled, but it wasn't a late patron, it was her phone buzzing violently in her apron pocket. She pulled it out, seeing Lena's name flash across the screen. "Please tell me you're free tonight." Lena's voice was a frantic whisper. "I'm so sick I can't stand, and I have this huge catering job." Sophie groaned. "Lena, I'm not a professional. I just cook for fun." "But you're good," Lena insisted. "Remember that garlic butter shrimp you made for my birthday? Does people still talk about it? This client pays $5,000 for one night. If I cancel, I lose my job." Sophie bit her lip. $5,000 would cover 3 months' rent. She could finally put a dent in her culinary school loans. "What's the job?" 7-course dinner for 12. All the ingredients are prepped, you just have to cook and serve. Lena coughed weakly. "Please, Soph. I'll owe you forever." Sophie exhaled. "Fine, but you're buying me drinks for a year." 2 hours later, Sophie stood outside 1247 Skyline Drive, a glass monolith piercing the twilight. Her stomach nodded as the elevator ascended to the penthouse. The doors opened directly into a living room, straight from a magazine floor, 2 ceiling windows, modern art, a chandelier that probably cost more than her car. "You must be the replacement." The voice sent a shiver down her spine. She turned, and her breath caught. Daniel Hartwell was unfairly handsome, all with tousled dark hair and piercing green eyes that held a strange, unsettling familiarity. He wore a black dress shirt rolled to his elbows, revealing tattoos that curled over his forearms. "Sophie Carter," she managed. "Lena's friend, Daniel." His gaze lingered a second too long before he gestured to the kitchen, everything set up. The kitchen was a chef's dream, marble countertops, a 6-burner stove, knives so sharp they gleamed. Unpacked the ingredients, hyper-aware of Daniel leaning against the island, watching her. "You're not what I expected," he said suddenly. Double quotes. "Oh." She kept her voice light. "What did you expect?" "Someone. It's less distracting." Her hands stilled. When she looked up, his expression was unreadable. Then the timer beeped, breaking the moment. "The risotto," she murmured, turning away. But the air between them had shifted, charged. Electric as they plated the first course, their fingers brushed. A spark. A jolt. Sophie swallowed hard. This wasn't just a favor anymore. This was trouble. Sophie's fingers trembled as she drizzled truffle oil over the seared scallops. She could feel Daniel's eyes on her, heavy, searching, as if peeling back layers she'd spent years building. "You have a chef's precision," he remarked, swirling his wine, "but your hands hesitate, like you're afraid of the ingredients." She nearly dropped the plate. How did he notice that? "Maybe I just respect them," she countered. A slow smile curled his lips. "Or maybe you're used to cooking for survival, not pleasure." The observation hit too close to home. Sophie had spent her childhood stretching groceries to last the month. Her mother's tired smile as she pretended she wasn't hungry. Cooking had always been necessity until Paris. Paris, her chest tightened. She forced herself to meet Daniel's gaze. "Why does this feel like an interrogation?" "'Cause," he said softly, stepping closer, "I know you." Flashback 5 years earlier, the cobblestone streets of Montmartre were slick with rain. 22-year-old Sophie, backpack half empty and heart full of dreams, ducked into a cafe to escape the storm, and there he was, a stranger with green eyes and ink-stained hands sketching in a leather-bound journal. He'd looked up when she sat nearby, rainwater dripping from her curls. "You're drowning," he'd said in rough French, tossing her his napkin. She caught it, laughing. "And you're rude, Daniel?" He extended his hand, rude but excellent at apologies. 2 weeks, they were inseparable. Mornings at the boulangerie, nights tangled in his tiny attic apartment. He'd traced the scar on her wrist to burn from her first kitchen job and whispered, "You're going to be extraordinary." Then one day he vanished. No note. Number. Warning. Just an unmade bed in the lingering scent of his cologne. Present Sophie's knife slipped, nicking her thumb. A bead of blood, WELLED. Daniel moved faster than she expected, catching her wrist. Let me don't. She yanked back, but his grip tightened. His thumb brushed the scar. That same touch, recognition flared in his eyes. Sophie, name her real name, the one she'd given him in Paris, shattered the illusion. She'd used Carter professionally for years. Her voice was a blade. You left. My father was dying. I had to. You didn't say goodbye. The air between them thickened. Daniel's jaw worked. I looked for you, everywhere. When Lena mentioned a Sophie with killer knife skills, I hoped. She laughed bitterly. So this was a setup? You hired me to what, apologize? To see if you'd remember me? His gaze dropped to her mouth. To know if I haunted you like you haunted me. Timer bipped the duck confit, perfectly crisped. Sophie turned away, but Daniel crowded her against the counter. His body warm against her back. Tell me to stop, he murmured, lips grazing. Her ear, she should, but the memory of his hands on her skin was a live wire. Daniel. His name was both plea and surrender. He spun her around. And then the penthouse door burst open. A woman's voice cut through the tension. Daniel, we have a problem. Sophie froze. The intruder was stunning tall, with a sleek blonde ponytail and a black pantsuit. Her eyes flicked to Sophie, then away, dismissive. Daniel stiffened. Not now, Elise. It's him, Lisa's. Voice dropped. He knows you're back. Daniel's expression darkened. He cupped Sophie's face, urgency replacing desire. Stay here. Lock the door. I'll explain everything later. Then he was gone, leaving Sophie with half-cooked dishes and a storm of questions. Who was him? And why did Daniel look afraid? Sophie stared at the closed penthouse door, her pulse hammering in her throat. The duck confit was burning. She could smell the caramelized fat turning bitter. But she couldn't move. He knows you're back. Elise's words coiled around her. Like smoke, she should leave. Pack up the half-finished courses, call a cab, and pretend tonight never happened. But then her phone buzzed. A text from Lena. Did you meet the client? Be careful, his last caterer quit after unusual circumstances. Sophie's thumbs hovered over the screen. What kind of circumstances? Before she could reply, the lights flickered. A shadow moved in the hallway. Daniel studied 2 floors down, a file onto his desk. They've been tracking you for weeks. Daniel flipped through surveillance photos of his gym, his office, a grainy shot of him entering Sophie's apartment building. His stomach lurched. She wasn't part of this. She is now. Elise tapped a photo of Sophie leaving the cafe that morning. Vargas doesn't miss details. Daniel's knuckles whitened. 5 years ago, he'd infiltrated Adrian Vargas's cartel as an undercover agent. The mission had gone sideways, forcing him to fake his death and abandon Sophie in Paris without explanation. Now, Vargas had resurfaced. And if he'd connected Daniel to Sophie, we need to move her, Daniel said. Elise scoffed, or cut her loose. No. The word came out sharper than he intended. I owe her the truth. Penthouse kitchen. Sophie yanked open drawers, until she found a knife. The blade glinted as she crept toward the hallway. Daniel. No answer. Then a muffled scrape. The elevator was stuck between floors. Her phone buzzed again. Unknown number. Run. The lights went out. A hand clamped over her mouth. Sophie drove the knife backward. Christ, Sophie. Daniel caught her wrist just before the blade sank into his ribs. It's me, she wrenched free. What the hell is going on? No time. He shoved a go bag into her arms. We have 90 seconds before they breach the service elevator. They who? A gunshot cracked in the distance. Glass shattered. Daniel hauled her toward the emergency stairwell. People who want me dead. Safe house, 3:47 a.m. The safe house. It was a dingy motel outside the city. Sophie paced the stained carpet, adrenaline still scorching through her veins. Let me summarize, she said. You're not a wealthy businessman. You're a spy, former Daniel corrected. He'd barricaded the door with a dresser. Interpol, then freelance, and the dinner party. A cover. I needed to vet you before explaining. She laughed wildly. Vet me for what? Daniel crossed the room in 3 strides. Before. This. He pressed a key into her palm, a safety deposit box with proof. Vargas ordered hits on my team. If something happens to me, Sophie recoiled. You dragged me into your mess without asking? I was trying to protect you. By lying, her voice broke. Just like Paris. Daniel flinched. For the first time, he looked uncertain. I had to disappear. My cover was blown. If I'd contacted you, you think I cared about danger? She shoved him. I would have waited. I would have. Daniel kissed her. It wasn't gentle. It was teeth in desperation, his hands, gripping her hips hard enough to bruise. Sophie bit his lip in retaliation. But he only groaned and deepened the kiss. When they broke apart, they were both shaking. I'm sorry, he said roughly. Sophie touched her swollen lips. Prove it. How? Take down Vargas. She grabbed his collar and never lie to me again. Somewhere in the distance, a car backfired. Daniel's smile was all sharp edges. Deal. Sophie's apartment door hung crooked on its hinges. The wood splintered near the lock. The moment she saw it, her blood turned to ice. Daniel shoved her behind him, a gun appearing in his hand like magic. Stay close. Inside, the destruction was methodical. Cushions slashed, drawers appended, her prized cast-iron skillet thrown against the wall in a spray of broken ceramic. But it was the message spray-painted across her bedroom mirror that made her knees buckle. Tell Hartwell he can't hide you. Daniel's grip on her arm was the only thing keeping her upright. His voice was eerily calm. They're sending me a message. By terrorizing me? Sophie's laugh was raw. I didn't even know you were alive until last night. Daniel's jaw tightened. He crossed to her bookshelf, the one filled. With dog-eared cookbook sand, yanked it away from the wall. Behind it was a small safe she'd never seen before. Sophie stared. What the hell is that? Insurance? He punched in a code. The safe opened with a hiss, revealing stacks of cash, passports, and a sleek black handgun. She recoiled. You planted a gun in my apartment? 3 years ago, he admitted, not meeting her eyes. When I first tracked you down after leaving Interpol, the betrayal stung worse than the vandalism. You've been watching me? The safe shut, protecting you, by lying, by turning my home into some spy nest. Her voice cracked. God, was any of it real? Paris last night. Daniel moved so fast she didn't have time to react. One moment she was furious, the next pinned against the wall, his body caging hers. His breath was hot against her ear, every damn second. His hand slid under her shirt, calloused fingers, tracing the scar on her ribs, the one from a bike accident in Montmartre. I remember how you got this. How you swore at me in 3 languages while I bandaged you. Sophie's pulse roared. But her body remembered his touch like a language it had never forgotten. A floorboard creaked. In the hallway, Daniel went rigid. They're back. The chase they fled through the fire escape as boots pounded up the stairs. Rain sheeted down, turning the metal steps treacherous. Sophie slipped. Daniel caught her wrist, hauling her into a sprint down the alley. A gunshot ricocheted off the dumpster beside them. Car. Daniel shoved her toward a rusted sedan. The engine roared to life as he hot-wired it with terrifying efficiency. Sophie clutched the dashboard as they fishtailed onto the highway. Where are we going? Somewhere Vargas won't expect. Daniel's knuckles were white on the wheel. My cabin in the Adirondacks. She gaped at him. You have a cabin now? His grin was feral. I have a lot of things you don't know about. The safe house, the cabin, was nothing like she expected. No cozy log walls. Just a concrete bunker half buried in the mountainside. Daniel disabled 3 separate security systems before ushering her inside. Sophie's breath fogged. In the chilly air, charming. It's bulletproof, he said, tossing her a sweatshirt. And off-grid, she caught it, inhaling the faint scent of his cologne. How long do we hide until I end this? He pulled a laptop from a hidden compartment. Vargas thinks he's hunting us, but he's wrong. The screen flickered to life, displaying a map with a blinking red dot. Sophie frowned. What's that? His weakness. Daniel zoomed in on a waterfront compound. His daughter's wedding, tomorrow. Psst. Her stomach dropped. "You're crashing a wedding?" "No." His smile sent a shiver down her spine. "We are." The breaking point night fell. The generator hummed. Sophie sat on the threadbare couch, watching Daniel clean his guns with unsettling focus. "You're really going to kill him?" It wasn't a question. Daniel didn't look up. "I'll kill you if I don't." The certainty in his voice terrified her. She crossed the room, kneeling in front of him. The gun between them felt like a third presence. "There's another way," she said. "We go to the authorities. They're paid by Vargas." His hand cupped her cheek, rough with gunpowder. "Residue. This ends tomorrow, one way or another." Sophie searched his face, the shadowed eyes, the tight set of his mouth. This wasn't the Daniel she'd known in Paris. That man had sketched her laughing in cafes, had whispered poetry. Against her skin, the man before her now was a weapon, and she was his trigger. She kissed him. It was nothing like the penthouse. No teasing, no games, just hunger and grief and 5 years of stolen time. Daniel made a broken sound against her mouth, his hands dragging her onto his lap. The gun clattered to the floor, forgotten. Clothes tore, nails bit into skin. When he finally pushed inside her, Sophie arched with a gasp, her back pressing into the cold metal of the coffee table. Daniel's teeth grazed her throat as he moved. Each thrust a promise and a punishment. Mine, yours, never letting go. Afterward, they lay tangled in the narrow bunk, sweat cooling on their skin. Daniel traced the curve of her shoulder, his voice barely audible. If tomorrow goes wrong, Sophie pressed her fingers to his lips. "Don't." Outside, the wind howled through the pines. Somewhere in the dark, a branch snapped. Daniel went still. Then a faint click from the perimeter. Alarm. Someone had found them. The intruder alarm blared through the cabin. Daniel was on his feet in an instant, shoving a gun into Sophie's hands. "Stay behind me." She gripped the weapon, her fingers remembering the weight from childhood hunting trips with her father. "Think it's Vargas?" Before he could answer, the front door exploded inward. Smoke filled the room. Sophie coughed, eyes watering as shadowy figures swarmed inside. A gloved hand yanked her backward. "Sophie." Daniel's shout was cut short by the sickening crack of a rifle but against his skull. He crumpled. A man stepped through the haze. Mid-50s, silver at his temples. A tailored suit untouched by the chaos. Adrian Vargas. He tutted, nudging Daniel's unconscious form with his polished shoe. "I told you he couldn't protect you." Sophie's finger tightened on the trigger. "Let him go." Vargas smiled. "What? You'll shoot me, and my men will put a bullet in his skull before you blink." He held out his hand. "The gun, chef?" She hesitated. Daniel's blood pooled on the floorboards. The gun clattered to the ground. The compound they dragged her to Vargas's estate in a windowless van, Daniel's limp body thrown over a guard's shoulder like a sack of flour. The wedding preparations were in full swing, white orchids lining the stone pathways, string quartet tuning their instruments. Vargas sipped espresso at a wrought iron table, watching as they chained Daniel to a chair in the center of the courtyard. "You're wondering why I haven't killed him yet," Vargas mused. Sophie strained against the guard holding her. "'Cause you're a psychopath who likes monologues." He laughed. "'Cause he stole something from me." A nod to his men. Ice water splashed. Over Daniel's face, Daniel jerked awake, coughing. His gaze locked onto Sophie alive, unharmed it, before shifting to Vargas. "She doesn't know anything." "Oh, I disagree." Vargas leaned close. "Tell me, Sophie, did he mention how many people he murdered during his little undercover charade?" Daniel's jaw clenched. 16, Vargas continued. "Including my nephew, a boy of 19. He tossed a photo onto the table, a grinning teenager in a soccer jersey. Executed in a warehouse while Daniel here whispered sweet nothings to you. In Paris?" Sophie's stomach turned. She looked at Daniel. His eyes were hollow. It was the job. The admission hung between them, heavier than chains. The choice of Vargas pressed a knife into Sophie's palm. "Kill him," he murmured, "and walk away. Or die together." The courtyard fell silent. Even the birds stopped singing. Daniel lifted his chin. "Do it. Blood trickled from his temple. You deserve to live. Sophie's hand shook. 5 years of anger, of wondering why he left now, she knew. He'd been a killer long before Vargas. The blade glinted in the sunlight. She stepped forward and slashed the ropes binding Daniel's wrists. Chaos erupted. Daniel moved like lightning, disarming the nearest guard. Sophie ducked as gunfire split, the air rolling behind a marble planter. Vargas shouted in Spanish, scrambling backward. Daniel tackled him. They crashed into the wedding cake, fists flying, porcelain shattering. Sophie grabbed a fallen pistol. A gunshot rang out. Vargas staggered, crimson blooming across his chest. He collapsed into the ruins of sugar flowers and burring tarsicaries. Silence, Daniel stood panting, smoke curling from the barrel of Vargas's own gun. Sophie met his gaze across the wreckage. Epilogue. 3 months later, the grand opening of Second Chance was packed. Critics raved about the up-and-coming chef, whose tasting menus told a story bitterness, betrayal, and finally, redemption. Sophie adjusted her chef's coat. Surveying the bustling dining room, a familiar presence warmed her back. Daniel's arms slid around her waist, his lips brushing her ear. Abel's 6 sent back compliments. Said the passion fruit tart was life-changing. She elbowed him lightly. Stop eavesdropping on guests. Old habits. He turned her to face him. The scar above his eyebrow, courtesy of Vargas's ring, was healing nicely. You happy? Sophie studied the man who'd lied, fought, and nearly died for her. The man who now washed dishes in her kitchen when the dishwasher called in sick. She kissed him, slow and sweet, tasting of citrus and hope. Getting there. Outside, the first snow of winter began to fall.